you can to the players.
You coach, D. You coach, right?
Right.
And when you put that system in, it is for what? For your players to be what?
Successful.
And they have to what?
They have to perform, which is the reason why I would put him in the Hall of Fame immediately. That's not the argument. That's not the argument. The argument isn't whether he should go to the Hall of Fame or not.
See, you're trying to cheat. Stop. So the expectation is if they perform in that system that you set and they perform it to the best, you're saying that there's no talent involved in that, in them performing in the system that you set up for them. You're telling me that, man, they don't have to be that talented. If my system works and they perform it, we'll win every game. There's no talent.
We spent way more time on this than we were supposed to, but that's essentially what Bill Belichick is saying.
No. I'm talking about Mac. I'm talking about Mac on the Mac and Free Show. I didn't ask about Bill Belichick. I asked you. So you're telling me that you do not depend on your players' talent because the system is going to make them thrive.
Well, for one, you
depend on. There's no one that you depend on. So your team, you better not give out an MVP award.
For one, you know this as a coach yourself. You have to develop the talent that's there, and you have to put the talent in positions to play to their strengths. So that's one. But if I did not have an incredible staff that allowed me to do some of the things that I needed to do, those kids could not be in a situation to perform. I'm telling you, there's a team we beat by 38, and I'm telling you from a talent perspective. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm telling you from a talent perspective. You're not listening.
Not show up, you're not worried that your team may struggle or not benefit. You're telling me that talent is not involved in that, or there's no key players or player that you depend on.
No, I mean you have to depend on some players. I particularly had the one that I depended on, absolutely.
Does that player have to have a certain level of talent to make that thing go?
Absolutely, but again, you're talking about basketball. One player can affect both sides of the floor. Football, that one player's on during his time, and then he's off. He has no effect on defense or special teams. And what you're trying to make an argument for Tom Brady is going to ignore the great offensive lines that the Patriots had, as well as the great defenses that they had in every single Super Bowl run. If you go back and look, they always had two things going for them other than Tom Brady, and that is defense and that is offensive line. Tell me I'm wrong.
McIntyre and all them offensive line, we going to take all them Super Bowls away. You had the greatest receiver of all time in Jerry Rice from an HBCU, alongside John Taylor from an HBCU, Delaware State, Mississippi Valley State, shout out. All that talent and a great offensive line with all pros, Randy Cross, Guy McIntyre, and you want to, and nobody says this about Joe Montana. They say, "Oh, he's the greatest."
Wait, stop!
Like you got to take. Like
I do. This is the argument I've made about Joe Montana. I'm the one saying that. I didn't put Joe Montana on the Mount Rushmore quarterbacks. That's not my Mount Rushmore. He's not there.
I'm giving an example. So don't try to be literal, but I'm giving an example. Just like you try dish out the basketball analogy, you know it's not about basketball.
But my point is, I run off a different criteria. This argument for me didn't start with Joe Montana. Didn't start with Tom Brady. It started with Joe Montana.
Say this. I'm going by this because a lot put him in there because he was undefeated in Super Bowls. Okay. So what I'm saying is you're going to have to take away a lot of stuff from individual or quarterbacks if you just throw it on. He's had a great line. What's his line? Any team that makes it to a Super Bowl usually has a pretty good offensive line, especially if they run the ball well. But I don't see. That's what I'm saying. Everybody tries to My thing is, whether you think Brady is the greatest or not, my argument is people that hate him do not want to give him any credit for anything. And that's impossible to do. He's been consistent for 20 years and been to a Super and led that team to more Super Bowls. Whether they now, if you'd have said, well, they cheated in half of, then I give you that argument more so than this. But everybody's like, well, the system. Okay, what system that's had a quarterback in it is not supposed to benefit that quarterback? Number two, then y'all go to, well, the offensive line, and is the line supposed to be garbage? You just said Jameis Winston ran for his life. Did they make the playoffs? So how can a team be successful if their line is garbage? Like, how can you logically make that argument and sit there and be like, no, his line. Okay, so name all the quarterbacks that were successful and won Super Bowls with a horrible line. I'll wait. You can't do it. Exactly.
I'm trying to remember. Peyton Manning, actually.
Are you serious? And you talking about in Denver?
Yeah, in Denver. That was a terrible offensive line.
Man, wait for me.
You asked for it. That was a terrible offensive line.
Didn't have a terrible line. Scramble or do anything, and go to.
But hold on a second. But see, so let's go back to the. So I'm gonna start here, and then we're gonna go into break, and then we'll try to get into some of these other topics that we talked about. But so Peyton Manning goes and he plays in the first Super Bowl in Denver. The first thing Peyton Manning proved to everybody was it was not a system. He was the system. And I go back to this with every single argument that we make about every single player. Peyton Manning was the system. That was point blank, period. To me, Peyton Manning with 2 Super Bowls is on. I'm putting him on the quarterback Mount Rushmore before Tom Brady, because there are better quarterbacks out there than Tom Brady that are the system. And that's kind of what I'm like. Should we as coaches be able to get talent to adapt to the system and do the best thing you can with the talent that you have? Absolutely. But my point is, because of his defense, actually, Von Miller won the second Super Bowl all by himself. So I'm not going there. But my point is this: Peyton Manning, under duress, the entire first Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks, still broke a record for the number of completions made in a Super Bowl game. Peyton Manning showed you in Denver that he was the system. There was no talk about his offensive coordinator the whole time he was there, because he was the system. And it does not matter that Peyton Manning has lost more playoff games than Tom Brady. The point is, Peyton Manning, during the course of his career, was the system. And we cannot ignore. That's the stuff I'm trying to get people to not ignore. He was. I'm dead serious.
Of audibles and checkoffs.
He's the system. Those are his audibles and checkoffs.
And was the master of hitting his tight ends, who was the master of dink and dunk, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. Are you serious with talent? Slants.
He went to Denver and did the exact same thing.
Peyton, one of the greatest. But what I'm saying is, Peyton had a system that worked. He had talent.
He was the system. You're missing my point. He was Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. What's the kid in Kansas City? What's the kid in Kansas City? What's the kid in Kansas City? What's his name? What's the quarterback in Kansas City? I can't believe I forgot his name.
No. Why did Dan Marino put up those numbers? What were they running, D? What were they running?
Dan Marino was the system.
Oh. What were they running, D?
What you mean? What were they running? You mean what? The shotgun? You mean the West Coast offense?
They were running a run and shoot, which was an anomaly at the time. So some coach had to come in and say, hey, I got this guy that can sling it everywhere. I'm going to put this run and shoot in here where teams are going to be in a track meet with these receivers. So don't sit here and say they were the system. You get the talent and you put a system in that they can thrive in. Peyton Manning was one that took control of the system and knew that playbook and could make it work. But he had talent when he was successful. He had more talent around him, than Brady had at receiver. His best year, he had Deion Brady. You name me
again,
one in their prime that he had that was a big time receiver.
Again, when the system is set for you, you are the system, and that is the reason why I said what Tom Brady was he was plugged into the system, and we saw that when Matt Castle was plugged into the same system, and they had very similar success. It's the same thing. With the quarterbacks that I named, you are the system when the system is plugged in for you. You are the system at that point. And that was Peyton Manning. That is Patrick Mahomes. That is Aaron Rodgers. That was Brett Favre. That was Dan Marino. You are the system when it is set for you.
Okay.
We cannot make that same argument for Tom Brady. The system was not set for him. It was a system that he was able to thrive in, but it was not built for him. That system was working for Drew Bledsoe before the reins were ever given to Tom Brady. And then after it was given to Tom Brady, he did it well.
How many years was he working for Bledsoe?
If I remember correctly, I think just that one. It may have been the year prior to that, if I'm not mistaken. But they were on a Super Bowl run the last time I checked with Drew Bledsoe at the helm.
Yeah, they were. Now, let me ask you this. So when he took over as a rookie, you don't think, because they'll tell you that the backup quarterbacks don't work the same packages. They give them a set package to work to manage games. But let me say this, and you that played professional football, semi-pro, you know that. So,
but that wasn't the case for Tom Brady. That wasn't the case for Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady was running, he was running the same packages. He was running the same packages. Hold on, I'm correcting it right now. He was running the same.
Let me finish it.
Go ahead.
Can you let me finish? Thank you. So you mean to tell me Brady came in as a rookie, and you mean to tell me that they just said, well, Tom, you got to step it up to this level. You mean to tell me that at no point in 20 years, they never made I'm going to go back to grandmama talk. They never made adjustment or trimmed it down to where it would fit Brady's talent. You're telling me they just said, no, this is the system, Tom, jump in there. You'll be all right. Because that's the argument you're making now.
All right. So to clean it up just a little bit, yes, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm saying yes. So, because for one, his talent tailors more to the offense than the offense would tailor to him. So, the offense was created. There's a recognition that, all right, this is the talent that we need for that offense. Now, let's double back on the Drew Bledsoe portion of this argument, which is Drew Bledsoe, for example, was hurt a large portion of that season. That's why I said I believe it was 2, but it was that he was at the helm. Drew Bledsoe was hurt a lot of that season, and Tom Brady got a lot of the reps. So when Drew Bledsoe came back, they decided, you know what, we're going to stick with Tom. He's gotten the reps, and I think we can go in with the hot hand with him. And they moved on from the older Drew Bledsoe and on to Tom Brady. Okay. So, no, he was not the typical.
Can I go back to the point you made earlier then?
Because he
can I come back to a point you made earlier then?
Of the first team. And that's number one.
To a point you made earlier then?
Go ahead.
Isn't that what happened with Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers?
No, because Drew Brees wasn't old when they moved on from him.
No, Bledsoe was not old when he got hurt.
Yes, he
came out of Washington State in 1995. This was 2000. This was the year 99, 2000.
Hold on a second.
Go back and look with Drew Brees. He was in his 6th or 7th year. He came out like 93, 94. Don't do that. Don't do that. Drew Brees. See?
I said, see,